It's just feels wonderful to be here and speak to all of you. I must confess that, we just talked about the jigsaw puzzle, and we in IndiaSkills are very much part of that jigsaw puzzle. And we're all trying to figure out, where we're going to be, where we're going to go, and when the inflection point is going to come. Mr. Kalra talked about private certification coming in that could help. Mr. Amalan, very passionate about NCVT, which is big, huge, and said that NCVT is the way to go. I personally think that we need both. We need private certifiers, we need the government. Each one has a role to play going forward. A quick minute on IndiaSkills, because that's not what I'm going to spend too much time on, because that information may be available to you. IndiaSkills is a joint venture company between Manipal Education, which is India's largest player in the private education space, and City and Guilds. City and Guilds is one very large player, very large international player in vocational training. They're basically 130 years old, and over this period of time have built close to 600 plus qualifications of what we call courses. They're present in close to 80 countries, have 6,000 plus centers, and every year certify close to 2 million students across the globe. So they're a very large player in the training industry. So this is a joint venture, a 51-49 joint venture which has been set up in the form of IndiaSkills. IndiaSkills just turned 1 last week, so we are a year old, and over this period of time we've tried to do a few things which I'll talk about over the few slides that I have now. What I'm going to spend a little time on is this whole vocational training industry, and what we as a training provider and part of the industry see this industry as, and what we think we need and what we think the industry needs to make this whole business work, right? So Abhinav had this wonderful slide saying, why isn't any number there not anywhere close to a 400 crore business that NIIT is built? And he's absolutely right. Over a period of time, there's not a single company that is outside IT that has come and set itself up, which is built anything sizable from a training, from a vocational training perspective. We think that inflection point is there, but we don't know where it is. Right? It's like the blind man and the elephant. So everybody's trying to feel this, big piece, trying to figure out, what this whole business is all about. Huge supply side, massive demand side. So you go plonk yourself in the middle. Looks like a very obvious business, but it's just not there. Nobody has actually achieved scale. Nobody has achieved any form of of a business over the last many years. Okay, I'll quickly run through this slide. All of us keep talking about any business has a supply side to it and has a demand side. So I'll start with the supply side. Supply side is all about the student or the learner input that comes into the system, right? So we all talk about this huge unemployment, underemployment. India is a young country, a billion population, 70% of them being youth, the demographic dividend, etc., etc. So it's all there. So we keep talking about, over these years, in any forum you go, people talk about this huge problem of underemployment, unemployment. There's one data missing there. There are 7.6 million students who drop out of the education system between standard 1 to standard 10 every year. 7.6 million students drop out. That's another data that you can just add to that whole supply side. Some facts about how India compares with other countries, in terms of a young India, how we compare ourselves to Europe, China, etc. going forward. Again, something that we all know. The demand side, which I've not talked about, 500 million people in the workforce, between 15 and 20 million people being added to the workforce every year, and that's the segment we're looking at. 20 million are getting added to the workforce every year, and those are the people who need to get skilled. That's the demand side, right? So all along we say huge supply, huge demand, go plonk yourself in the middle. You can't do that because there's a skills gap. The people who are there from the supply side don't have the relevant skills to join demand. I think it's time has come to, stop talking about these large numbers and really getting there and start acting, right? Figuring out how are we going to really do this. Quickly, this business essentially has 5 stakeholders in this entire business, right? The one in the middle is the one that plays a key role, and what we call them awarding bodies, or we call them certifying bodies. Today, the biggest awarding or the certifying body in India is NCVT, and that's a fact. I mean, that's the organization that Amalan is part of. NCVT is the largest certifying body. We have industry, we have students, of course, we have policymakers, which is the government, and we have delivery partners or delivery centers, which could be franchised, it could be owned, it could be whatever. So these are the 5 stakeholders, and everything that you see against the box are benefits that each stakeholder gets. Very simple. What does the industry get? Industry gets ready workforce, right? In this whole business, they get people who are ready to work, what we call first day, first hour productive workforce. It's a term that we've coined and tried to use and live up to. What does the government get out of this? Higher employment, hopefully more taxes because of larger employment, but meets their agenda of employing more people, meets the agenda of reaping the demographic dividend as we go along, right? That's what the policymaker gets. What does the learner get at the end of the day? A great job, right? These are all underemployed, unemployed people. They get good jobs, right? They get, they are in society with a good job, and don't kind of tend to get lost. And finally, delivery centers. What do they get? Delivery center is very simple. It's a way to make more money, right? A person will become a delivery center as long as he sees a good return on the investment that he'll make to become a delivery partner. It also allows him to kind of expand his current portfolio. If he's currently running an IT training center, then you can add 5 more courses, and then you kind of expand your portfolio. This is what really the stakeholders benefit. What I really want to quickly cover in the next few minutes is, what is it that we really need from each of these stakeholders to make this business reach that inflection point quickly, right? And that's really what's really important to us. The awarding body or the certifying body, the way it's known world over, right? Or the way what NCVT is really trying to do or has positioned itself to do. What does City and Guilds do? What does EdXL do? What does TAFE do? These are large, very large certifying awarding bodies in the vocational space world over. They essentially build industry relevant qualifications. The first thing they do is build courses, right? What are called qualifications. Create a pool of faculty and enable that. Actually, you don't go and kind of hire them and put them on your roles, because that's done by the delivery center, but you go and create a pool of faculty and you enable that process. You create support material for learning. While you build qualifications is what we call a basic structure of the curriculum, right? That's what the MES product does. What does MES do? It gives you a structure of the curriculum. But when you go and teach, you need what is called courseware. You need student guides, you need faculty guides, you need presentations, PPTs. That's what we call courseware. So awarding bodies or certifying bodies go and build this courseware to help and enable training. Very important, they build very strong assessment tools. And in vocational training, assessment is a very, very key thing. And why is it key? We just heard Amalan talking about how useless knowledge is and why skills are required. Well, I think it's a combination of both. You need some amount of knowledge, but in vocational training, you need a lot of skills, right? The art of assessing skill is something that India doesn't have today. And India has never had the science of how do you assess a skill. Let me give you an example. When you're training somebody to, say, build a wall, right? You're training a mason, and a mason is going through this whole process of building a wall. How do you assess that mason's competency at the end of the course? Well, it's not about that person coming and writing a theory exam of 10 questions and getting 7 right and then getting 70% marks. It's not about writing a theory exam. It's about writing a theory exam and also assessing his competency. So what are you doing? You're actually observing this person while he's building the wall and making a few judgments on the fact that has he built that competency to build a wall in such a way that it doesn't collapse on us, right? So that is called competency-based assessments, and this assessment process has not been there in this country, and there are organizations like City and Guilds, like TAFE, like EdXL, who over these many years have mastered this art of competency-based assessments, which is basically assessing a practical skill. We need to build very strong credit transfer mechanisms, which is the other thing that that an awarding body should actually constantly keep doing. Why? In India is a very degree-based economy, right? What would you do? The first thing you want to do is get a BA degree or get a BCom degree. That's if you're not part of ISB, and that if you're not part of the good formal education. So you want to go and do a BA. Why do you want to do a BA? Because fundamentally you can't even get married if you don't have a degree, right? Your social status is all defined by the fact that you first need a degree. So you would, if you had 5,000 rupees to spare, you'll do a BA and not do a course in retail, which will get you a job quickly, right? There must be a way to connect vocational training to a degree. And this whole process of credit transfer, IGNOU has done it in a